Hello grade 12s, welcome to Life Science, and today we're going to have a look at the human nervous system. Okay, so before we always start, I need to get my pen, almost dropped it, can you believe it? Okay, first thing, terminology. We're going to have a look at 4 words and I want you to give me the meaning of them. Okay, first one, sensory neuron, let's change color. Next one, motor neuron. Next one, meninges. And then last one, cerebrum. Right, so there's 4 words. I'm going to give you 2 minutes quickly. Let's see how good you are. Off you go. Well, let's have a look at these words. First of all, neurons, we know we're going to look at nerves roundabout, okay? And then we have a look at these words that are in front here, and you have the sensory and motor, okay? Now, you've all heard where you say, oh, I sense something strange, right? So you're sensing it. And the last one, motor, you always think of like a motor car or a motorbike, which means it moves. There's 2 clues for you. So let's have a look at it quickly. Come on, there we go. I've left it out. Let me put it here. First of all, your sensory neuron it's very important. Your sensory neuron picks up all the senses, right? So everything you touch, your smell, your sight, your hearing, okay? You know your 5 senses? That's what it is. That's the sensory neuron. The sensory neuron takes the sense and takes it to the brain, right? So it's a neuron moving from your senses, okay, all the way up, all the way to your brain. Okay, next one, your motor neuron tells your muscles to move. That's what motor means, okay? So your motor neuron tells your muscles to move, okay? Now, you've got your meninges. Now, these things are cool, right? You know you've got your brain. So you've got your skull, and then you've got your brain. And inside your brain, there's a layer of this membrane, okay? And this membrane goes around your brain, and it's there to protect it. I know you've got your skull, okay? But it's there for more protection, okay? And it keeps a fluid in as well. Now, this membrane, right, is called your meninges, okay? Now, this stuff here is very important because you actually make it from certain fats, okay? So your omega-3s and your omega-6s and all of those, they make your meninges. Very, very important. And then, of course, your last part, your cerebrum, and that is part of the brain. It's one of the lobes of the brain, which we're going to find out in a few minutes exactly what it's like. Right, so that's what you needed to put down. Now, if I get my pen again, let's have a look at more, because I've actually got some more words for you, okay? There we go. First one, cerebrum. Now, remember we had the cerebrum. Now I'm giving you the cerebellum, okay? There's 2 different. Then you get the corpus callosum, okay? Then you get the medulla oblongata, and last one, you get spinal cord. So there are your four, okay? I'm going to give you 2 minutes again. Make sure you concentrate. Let's see what you come up with. Off you go. Let's see if I have it this time. Last time, for some reason, I don't know where I put that stuff, but let's have a look at these ones, because I know I've got them. We saw it. First one, the cerebellum, okay? It's a part of the brain at the back of the skull in vertebrates, which means it's like us. We have a vertebral column, right? There we go, which coordinates and regulates muscular activity. So your cerebellum has got to do with your muscles and movement and that type of thing, right? Remember, you get smooth and striated muscle. All the things that move, that create movement, okay, comes from the cerebellum. Next one, you got the corpus callosum. Now that guy, that's cool. You know, you always say, sorry, you get these. If you have a look, you say you got your brain and it's up here and it's two pieces, right? You get the left and you get the right hemisphere. I'm going to just check this is left. Yeah, left hemisphere and right hemisphere. There we go. And they stand like this. And if I had to split them slightly, you get this little thing that joins them. So I'd say it looks, I don't know if I can do it like that, but it looks like that. And there's this little part in between that joins the two. And that part there is the corpus callosum. Now let's have a look. It's a broad band of nerve fibers joining the two hemispheres of the brain. Okay, that the left side needs to know what's happening on the right side and vice versa. Right, it's quite cool, isn't it? Now, the next one we have a look at is your medulla oblongata. I love this thing, right? Your medulla oblongata. Let's see. The continuation of the spinal cord within the skull. So in other words, it's found right here at the bottom where the spinal cord comes up, and then you get the medulla oblongata, right? Forming the lowest part of the brain stem, okay? And it contains, it's the control center for the heart and for the lungs. So these guys, the medulla oblongata, make sure that your heart beats and make sure that you can breathe. It controls the breathing in that, okay? I know that you say, oh, please, I can control my breathing. And you hold your breath, and you can say how long you want to hold your breath and if you want to breathe or if you don't want to breathe. Yes. But how come you think people drown? Okay, because what happens is after a while your body says, I need oxygen. So I'm going to breathe whether you like it or not. Okay, and that's why people drown. Okay, you cannot stop yourself from breathing. Your medulla oblongata will force you. We understand that. Okay, then of course we've got, okay, come on, move today. Come on. for some reason, I'm struggling with this board today. But anyway, if I have a look at it, you've got your spinal cord and, okay, spinal cord, what it is, what's happening is, with your spinal cord, it's the part that joins the brain, okay, and the rest of your nerves around you. So what actually happens, it's a big cord full of nerves, and all the nerves from the brain goes all the way down there, and then they splice off, if they come off at different parts, right, to different parts, like your fingers, your toes, everything like that. So think about your spinal cord as being a huge highway of nerves. So all the nerves of everything goes there and come together in the spinal cord from everywhere else and end up going into the brain. That's cool, isn't it? Okay, now, if I get to the pen there, okay, it's a cylindrical bundle. Remember, I said it's a whole bunch of nerve fibers, which is enclosed by the spine, okay, and what happens is that spine, you know the bones is called the spine, it's there to protect it, okay, and it also connects nearly all parts of the body to the brain, okay. Why only nearly all parts? Think about it carefully, okay. What about your eyes and your ears and that? Okay, that doesn't have to go through the spinal column, does it? Okay, and then of course, this forms part of the central nervous system, which we're going to have a look at. You're going to find out the difference between the peripheral and the central nervous system. Right, okay, now, here we go. First thing I want to show you. If I have a look at this beautiful picture, this is your sensory neuron. And I promise you now, you will notice the difference between a sensory neuron and a motor neuron. You know why? Because they look completely different. They look completely different. Okay? Now, let's have a look at this. One of the main things when it comes to a sensory neuron is you have this thing called a cell body in the middle of the nerve. Okay? And if you have a look, it's right over here. Now, the cool thing about this, okay, is you got your synaptic ends over there. You see it, okay? You have this thing called your node of Ranvier, okay? And the node of Ranvier, can you see this? There's this sausage. Let me just see if I can change colors here, right? There's this thing here. It looks like a sausage over here, this covering, okay? Now, that there is your myelin sheath. Okay, and your myelin sheath, I'm going to explain now what it is when we get to the other one. Okay, so you have that, and then it comes to your receptors. Now, your receptors, excuse me, your receptors is what actually picks up the sense. So it goes receptors, then it goes into your axon, right? And if you have a look at your axon, it's this black line in here, this dark black line over here. That's your axon. That's where the nerve picks up the impulse and it goes all the way down that axon. Okay, now that is called an axon. You have your cell body to keep this whole thing alive. You've got this myelin sheath, okay, which is over there. It's very, very important. And then, of course, you got your node of Ranvier. Now, this is built in a specific way. Oh, sorry. And then you get your synaptics, which is over here, which passes on to the next one. Okay, now this thing is very, very important and built this way for a specific reason. Okay, now I'm going to do the other one again, or the next one, which of course is, I'm going to move over it, is your motor neuron. Just have a look at the motor neuron. Okay, look where the cell body is. The cell body's here now. Look at this. Okay, and look how this piece, and I'm just going to circle it. Look at that part. Okay, I'm going to go back. If I can, there we go. Have a look. What is that? That's your sensory. Look at this one. That is, come on, your motor. Can you see the difference? This one, I always look at it as where I put that circle around over here. Okay. To me, it's always a guy with a funky hairstyle, right? And he's happy and the hair standing all over the place. That's how I see it. And when you've got your hair done up all nice like you want it, what you're going to go do? You're going to go moving, go do some dancing in that. So it's a motor neuron. Okay, your sensory neuron, if I can get there, your sensory neuron is very, very important because what it does is it picks up all your senses. So it's calm and collective. Your motor neuron bounces all over the place, right? So hopefully you're not going to forget the difference. Okay, now, what I think is before I go into the detail of the motor neuron, okay, I think you need a break because I definitely do. And I don't want you to forget about this. So I think you must go for a break. And when we get back, we'll get straight into it. See you soon. Hello, welcome back. Now let's have a look at this. Now that you've seen the difference, if I have a look at it again, motor neuron, sensory neuron. You can see the difference, right? It's quite easily seen, okay? Now, if I can have a good look at this, which direction do you think the nerve is actually running, right? And if you have a look, it's in that direction, because here is the muscle, okay? There's the muscle, and we want to make the muscle move. So it comes from the brain, right? Let's say the brain is over there. The brain sends the message all the way down to the muscles. Now, this is not one, there's not one nerve from here all the way down to where it's got. There's lots of nerves together. Okay, so you got to make sure that you understand there's lots of them. There's not just one. Now, remember I told you that there's this red part here. There it is. Can you see it? Okay, and I see that we got a Schwann cell nucleus. It's a specific cell, but what I want you to do is this red part here that I'm drawing in now, okay, that is called your myelin sheath. And your myelin sheath is like, if you look at a power cable, right, you've got all the little copper wires on the inside, and then you've got that plastic or rubber around it, right? Your myelin sheath is like that. It's nice and thick, and it stops the messaging from leaving. It keeps it in the axon. That's quite cool, hey? Now, I promise you that when it comes to, if I have a look at this, you've got this node of Ranvier. It's very important, but you don't need to know about it. It's how the chemicals move to actually get it, to get the nerve pumping through it. Right, now, there's one more nerve that we got to have a look at, okay? And it's this one. It's called your interneuron, or your connecting neuron, okay? Now, the best way to explain it is your motor neuron and your sensory neuron, they speak different languages, okay? So the one speaks, let's see, the one speaks English and the other one speaks, let's see, a nice language, Italian. One speaks Italian and one speaks English, right? And the one cannot understand the other one, right? So if they don't understand each other, what do you need, okay? You need an interpreter. And that's what the interneuron is round about. It's an interpreter. Okay, so it goes from the sensory neuron to the connecting neuron to the motor neuron. It's the best way to explain it. And if you have a look at it, the motor neuron is the interneuron is so small. It's very, very simple. Okay, there's an axon. You're not going to have your myelin sheath. You're going to have your dendrites, and you're going to have your synaptic endings. Right. Very, very simple. Now, have a look at this. Okay, here's a list below. Okay, and I'm actually going to move it. I want you, and I'm going to give you 1 minute. Let's see. No, I'm going to give you, let's see if I can move it up. No, wait, let's do this. Let me grab that and bring that down here, and that and bring that down here. Let's see how high I can lift it. Okay. I want you to fill or put them exactly where you think they'll go. Okay, but there are some missing. If you have a look, you've got one more at the bottom. So if you've got one more at the bottom, remember you've got an extra label here. So make sure you concentrate. You've got to make sure that there's one left over. And I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do it. Are you ready? Off you go. Let's see if you get the same answers as me. Right, so the first thing, the best way I know how to do this is I'm always looking for, because we're working with cells, I'm always looking for the nucleus. So the nucleus, so there it is. If I click on the nucleus, I bring it along, and the nucleus, I'm going to put it there. Okay, now where would you find the nucleus? You'll find it in the cell body. So I'm just going to put the cell body in its right place. Okay, very simple. The parts here, the crazy hair. What is a crazy hair there for? Very simple. On the end of each one, you get your dendrites, and your dendrites is what picks up the sensors from the last synaptic terminals. Okay, then we've got a couple of things. We've got an axon, and remember your axon, if you remember carefully, is the dark color. So your axon's over there. Your axon is this red piece that I'm coloring in now. Remember that dark line. Okay. Then you have, remember I said you've got this sheath that covers it, right? And what is that sheath going to do? Okay. It is going to cover it to make sure that it doesn't escape. So you have your myelin sheath, which is over here. There it is. Yes, I know it's a Schwann cell. Was there a Schwann cell available? No, which leaves your myelin sheath. Okay, next one. Remember, between the two myelin sheaths, you get the node of Ranvier. Remember, I said it helps with pushing the messages through. I promise you, it gets so complicated. Okay, just with moving chemicals around. That means you should be left with your synaptic terminals. And if you have a look at it very carefully, what is your last one? There it is, your synaptic terminals, which means there's a break between the two. How cool is that? I know you guys did well in that. Just not too difficult, right? Please remember they are going to ask you to label it. Make sure you know them. Cool. Now, next thing ahead. What I have here for you is the central nervous system. Very important. And guys, you don't have to know all the things. Okay? Yes, you need to know a couple of them. Like, for example, the pituitary gland. Okay, pituitary gland is very important. It helps with certain decisions. Okay, you need to know your brain stem, which is at the bottom. You need to know your cerebellum. You need to know your corpus callosum. Remember, joins the two sides, the two hemispheres of the brain. Right. You need to know. Let's see, your cerebrum. Your cerebellum, your cerebrum, okay? Now, those are the main ones that you're having a look at. You know you need a vertebral column and you have a spinal cord. But now, you're going to say to me, what is the spinal cord and vertebral column is the same thing? No, it's not. Your spinal cord is that whole cord full of nerve cells. Remember, the whole cord is full of nerve cells. But a vertebral column is the bones around it. Okay, so you can break your back, you can break your spine. Okay, it's fine. You won't get paralyzed if you break your back. But the minute you break your spinal column or you sever it, that's when you get paralyzed. Hey? Now, this part here, if you've only noticed, it's the center. There it is. It stops there. Brain and your spinal cord. That is your central nervous system. Only consists of that. It's the center of your body, right? And if you have a look, you've got your arms on the outside and you've got your legs on the outside. Very important that you know your central nervous system consists of your spinal cord and your brain. Okay, now, if I have a look at the next one, peripheral, your peripheral is your outside of your central nervous system. So it's everything else. So if I have a look at this picture over here, and I know I've labeled it now, make sure I get a good label. Watch this carefully. Okay, I'm going to take a nice dark color, if I can get to it. There we go. And I'm just going to circle. You see this piece here? Okay, all in the red. Okay, that part there is your central nervous system. Okay, spinal cord and your brain. Everything else, and if you have a look at it, everything else there is in blue. That there is your peripheral. It's outside of the center, your peripheral nervous system. Okay, and I've put on a lot of things here. Okay, your radial nerves, your intercostal nerves, I've put on a lot, your lumbar, right? All of these things, you don't need to know that off by heart, but you need to know the difference between your central nervous system and your peripheral. Okay, very important. Peripheral, you don't want to damage. your central, you don't want to damage. Your peripheral, not the end. It is bad, but it's not like your central nervous system. Right, and that is a beautiful picture. And make sure that you can see how many nerves there actually are, how many nerve cells there actually are. It's quite cool. Now, here we go. Key concepts. Your autonomic nervous system. Autonomic is automatic. Okay, now if we have a look at, you get your sympathetic and you get your parasympathetic. Okay, now sympathetic and parasympathetic. Make sure you understand the difference between them. Okay, your sympathetic and your parasympathetic. Let's have a look. Your sympathetic dilates pupil. Okay, make sure that it inhibits the flow of saliva. It accelerates your heartbeat, right? Dilates bronchies, okay? All the little, the tubes that's running in there, it dilates him, makes him smaller, right? Peristalsis and secretion, okay? I'm doing this for a reason. You'll understand now what I'm doing, okay? Converts glycogen to glucose, okay? Next one, secretes adrenaline and, well, it's the opposite of adrenaline, okay? Next one, inhibits bladder contraction, inhibits bladder contraction. Let's have that was your sympathetic. Let's look at your parasympathetic. Okay, stimulates flow of saliva, slows heartbeat, constricts bronchi. Okay, let's have a look. Stimulates peristalsis, okay, and secretion. It stimulates it, makes it happen. Okay, next one, stimulates the releasing of bile. It contracts the bladder. Okay, and all of that, if you have a look at it, all of that comes from the brain. And it comes down these nerve cells, and look where it actually comes from. You can see the top of the spinal cord is where you're going to have that. The next part, you're going to have the next part. So it goes down. Okay, so the higher you break or you sever the spinal cord, the worse it actually becomes. That's quite cool, isn't it? Okay, that's a good picture. I've made sure that it was there and you can see everything. Now, if I go to the next ones, here is we're going to get into some big things now, and let's have a look at it. The main function. Can you remember that big word? I remember the main function of meninges. Remember that big word. And what did I say? It was a covering around the brain. Let's have a look quickly what it really, really is. Okay, it protects the brain and spinal cord from mechanical injury. Okay, so in other words, it's a mechanical part, means physical. Okay, stops it physically. Now, meninges, I don't want to cheat, so I'm going to keep on with the order that we're going on it, right? Next one, provides blood to the skull and to the hemispheres. And if we have a look at providing blood supply to the skulls and to the hemispheres. In other words, the blood vessels come from that and then into the brain and all of that. That's quite cool, isn't it? So the meninges, very important to have it. You cannot have them damaged, right? Well, if we do damage it, they do cut into it, but it can be repaired. Next one, provides a space for the flow of, this is a good one, cerebrospinal fluid. So cerebral spinal fluid, okay? You know, your brain, it's inside this big skull, okay? And it's in a liquid, and this liquid moves around. Remember, liquid is a beautiful shock absorber, right? So because it's in there, it can move, and as it's moving, it's not going to get damaged because it's got a liquid around it. And the meninges keep that liquid in, and that's how it protects it. It's quite cool, isn't it? So when you've bumped your head very badly, right? You've bumped your head very badly. If the meninges are keeping all the liquid in, and now we start bleeding in there, what happens? You have bleeding on the brain, and it pushes, and that pressure is very sore, and it's going to give you headaches and that type of thing, right? And it can actually damage you very badly. Too much pressure on the brain is very bad, right? So that's what it does. It keeps everything in, but it still protects it. And then we talk about the meninges as one thing, but it isn't. It's actually 3 different layers, okay? So let's have a look at it. These layers protecting tissue is collectively named the meninges. But they're actually in three parts. So let's have a look here. They're actually composed of three main layers. Okay, so three main layers. It's your dura mater, okay, it's your arachnoid layer, and it is your perimater. Okay, that's the three. So it's your dura mater, it is your arachnoid layer, and then it is your perimeter. Okay, so those three together create your meninges. That's cool, isn't it? Now, remember, that is your protection of the brain. And the brain is the important one that we have to protect. It controls everything. Okay, now, just before we go on to a break, I want to ask you a simple question. Okay, what is the brain? Okay, what is it really, really made of? Think about it, the brain. Everybody looks, and I'm closing my eyes because it's good to think about it. You close your eyes and you think about it. What is the brain? We know about this gray matter and this white matter, and it looks like spaghetti and all of that together. What is it really? Okay, it's very important. The brain, okay, is thousands or millions of nerves. Okay, it's millions of nerves together create the brain. Right. Okay, so I think you need a break. I need a break. I'll see you straight after this. Hope you enjoyed your break. Let's have a look. Next thing we're going to have a look at, okay, is the function of the brain. Okay, and I mentioned right in the beginning, we had a look at the cerebrum and we have a look at the cerebellum. Okay, now let's break it down. The cerebrum or cortex is the largest part of the human brain. Okay, it is associated with the high brain function such as thought and action. Okay, so all your thinking comes from there and all your actions come from there. Okay, the cerebral cortex is divided into 4 sections called lobes. Okay, so the cerebrum or the cortex is divided into 4 lobes. Okay, so 2 hemispheres, each hemisphere 4 lobes. Okay, very important. Okay, the frontal lobe, parental lobe. Okay, then you get the occipital lobe, and you get the temporal lobe. Now, let's have a look at it. There we go. So, the 4 lobes. Let's have a look. There's the one, okay, the frontal lobe, okay. Then you get the next one, which is your temporal lobe, where your temples are, right? Then you get your parental lobe, right? And then you get your ocular, the 4 lobes. Can you see how they work? And then, of course, you get your cerebellum, which is down the bottom here. But we're not worried about that. We're worried about the cerebrum, which has got 4 lobes, is the biggest part of the brain. Thinking and movement. Can you remember? Okay, now that's a beautiful thing. Each one of them do different things. Okay, each one of them do a specific thing. So let's see. The frontal lobe, thinking, memory, behavior, and movement. Okay, that's what the frontal lobe does. Okay, if we have a look at the parental lobe, it's your language and touch. Okay, your temporal lobe is hearing, learning, and feeling. Okay, your ocular lobe is for sight, tells you straight what it is. Okay, there are your 4 things. Very simple. Each one do different things. One of them are damaged, you are in trouble. Okay, so we try and keep them as safe as possible. Now, next one. Remember we said the cerebrum, and now we've got the cerebellum. Now the cerebellum, here we go. It reverses information from the sensory system. Okay, the spinal cord and other parts of the brain, and then regulates motor movement. So in other words, what it does is, listen to this. Okay, so you sitting on a hill, eyes closed, and it's a beautiful sunny day, right? And what happens? And all of a sudden, there's this light breeze. Okay, so your skin feels the breeze, and as it picks up that breeze, it sends this information up to the cerebrum, the cerebellum. Okay, when it gets there, the cerebellum says, "Woo, that's a cold chill. We need to just warm up the body." Sends a motor down, makes the body shiver quickly. Okay, can you understand? Gives you that shiver, that shake. Okay, so the cerebellum makes your body do that. Cool. Now, it's not the only thing. The cerebellum coordinates voluntary movement such as posture, balance, coordination, speech, resulting in smooth and balanced muscle action. So the cerebrum does everything perfectly. Okay, so put it this way. You move your hand. There we go. It's moved. The cerebellum didn't do that. When you're writing, the controlled movement, the balance and all of that comes from the cerebellum. It shows you how slow to move it, how fast to move it. Okay, so the cerebellum controls all of that. Okay, now can you understand how it works? And there it is. There's the cerebellum. It's a small little part of the brain. There it is. Can you see it? It almost looks like a tree. Okay, cerebellum, very important part. Okay, now another one that I've got for you, corpus. Can you remember the corpus callosum? Okay, what is that part? It joins the left and right hemisphere. Why does it actually do that? Let's see. Consists of 2 million axons. Can you remember what an axon is? Okay, so small little parts consists of 2 million axons. Okay, that interconnect the two hemispheres. That's all it does. Okay, it interconnects this side of the brain with this side of the brain, and here we go. Primary function is to integrate motor, sensory, and connective, okay, performance between the cerebral cortex on one side of the brain to the same region on the other side of the brain. Okay, so they control each side. There's got to be a control between the two. Makes sense. Okay, so whatever's happening on this side, also this side needs to know about it. So there's a little pathway between them so you can understand it. Okay, that is what the cerebral callosum is. And here we go. If you have a look at it, I know it doesn't look like much over there, but there it is. It's this part that I'm coloring it in here. That piece there. Okay, 200 million axons. That's a lot. That's I can't even think that big. That's lots. Okay, and that's only in your brain, that small little piece between the brain. Can you imagine how many your brain has and how many you've got all the way down your bottom, or down your body? It's amazing, hey? Now, another one for you. Your medulla oblongata. That's one of my favorite ones. I just love the name of it. Let's see. Helps regulate breathing, heartbeat, blood vessel function, digestion, sneezing, and swallowing. That's what it does. Its main function is it controls all that point. Okay? And if you have a look at it, heartbeat. You can't control your heartbeat. Your regulating of your breathing, medulla oblongata, you don't control it. Blood vessels, you don't control. Digestion, you don't control. Sneezing, you don't control. And swallowing. Yes, you can want to swallow, but swallowing is swallowing. You can't stop it. It's the way it works. It controls all of that. Okay, now let's see. A center for, it's the center of respiration and circulation. That's the main part. That's what it controls. It controls your heartbeat. It controls, so if there's too much carbon dioxide in your body, too little oxygen, it makes you breathe faster to get rid of it. It controls it. Medulla oblongata controls it. Okay, and if we have a look, let's see if I can actually move this guy down a bit, if I can. Let's see. No, we can't, but it's fine. Let's see what you do. Sensory and motor neuron cells from the forebrain will travel through the medulla. So in other words, what happens is, as the spine is coming up here, it's going to go through the medulla oblongata first before it goes anywhere else. Okay, that's what it's saying there. It's quite a cool one, huh? Now, here we go. I've got a couple of questions for you. True or false? It's very, very easy, very simple. Okay, just want you to tell me true or false, and can you explain to me why? So make sure you concentrate very carefully. Okay, and I'm going to give you, let's give you a minute. Let's see how good you are. Okay, just a minute. These four. Are you ready? Off you go. Let's have a look at it. First thing, we have the brain is attached to the skull. Think about that carefully. True or false? Okay, it is false. Remember what I said, you've got your brain, your skull, then you've got your meninges, and then you've got a liquid, and the brain is floating in the liquid, helping it with, you remember what it is? Absorption, so it doesn't get, or shock absorption, so it doesn't get hurt. Okay, so that's why it is not attached to the skull, it's floating in there. Next one, the corpus callosum connects two hemispheres of the brain. Does it? Remember, hemisphere, the left hemisphere, right hemisphere, and the part in between is your corpus callosum. What does it do? It connects the two hemispheres together. Absolutely right. So it is true. Next one. These four lobes, there's four lobes in each hemisphere. Seriously? 4 lobes in each hemisphere? Of course there is. Remember, hemisphere, left hemisphere, right hemisphere, and you have the 4 lobes. Remember, the parental, you get the occipital, I can't say it at the moment, but you've got the 4 lobes inside each hemisphere. Now, it happens, wait, you're also going to think about it, occipital. There we go. Occipital. See, now we're going to carry on. Next one, the brain floats in cerebral spinal fluid. Does it float in the cerebral spinal fluid? It does. What does it do? Moves around. What does that liquid do? It creates a shock absorber. Cool, huh? Now, a few more for you. True or false? Here we go. Just another, let's see, 2, 4. Another 4 of them. You have got a minute. Are you ready? Off you go. Let's have a look how you did. Now, neurons are the basic brain cells. Now, basic brain cells, is that true? Remember I said to you that what is the brain? It's made up of lots of different nerves. And what is nerve? It's a nerve cell. So yes, the basic building block of a brain is the nerve. Okay, the neurons is the basic thing. Lots of neurons together make a brain. And can you remember what that process is called? Hey, it was in grade 10 you learned that word. Can you remember? What is it called when you start getting all neurons together and they form a brain? It's called cephalization. Don't forget that word. It's quite a cool word, cephalization. Next one, the brain communicates via chemicals. They do. Okay, you've got this impulse that's running through, but the chemicals are forming it. So yes, it does do chemicals, but it's not just chemicals. Okay, so there we go. You got your chemicals, does run through the brain, and then your neurotransmitters pass directly from the axon to the dendrites. Is that true? Okay, just for the record, remember you've got your axon over here, you've got your myelin sheath over here, and then you get your dendrites, and these dendrites, there they are, from here to here, it passes through them with ease. So yes, that is true, 100%. And then lastly, each lobe of the brain has specific functions. There's no ways. Think about it. Your whole brain, does it have specific functions? Of course it does. Remember, 4 lobes in each hemisphere. Each lobe has a specific thing. So let's try that again. The occipital lobe is mainly for eyesight. Can you remember? Okay, and then there's one for movement, and there's one for speech, and there's one for thinking. Okay, so all of these together work 100%. Okay, each part, different thing you learn from a different place. One of the ones right in front got to do with learning and understanding. The one in the back has got to do with speech, exactly what we're doing now. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and I know that you've learned something, but we'll speak to you soon. See you. Cheers.